Trigger warning. This is a very graphic, horrible case of what happened to Lacey Ellen Fletcher. The parents of severely autistic Lacey Ellen Fletcher, who died fused to a sofa by her own excrement, were arrested on Monday and face life in jail after a grand jury indicted them on second-degree murder charges. Sheriff Jeffrey Travis told DailyMail.com, "We picked them up, arrested them, brought them to the jail, and we're in the process of booking them in. Their bond is not my purview. The judge sets the bond, and she will work with their attorney for that. I'd say the bond will be really high." That means under Louisiana state law that Sheila Fletcher is likely to be moved to a prison until at least the bond issue is sorted, because there is a time limit that females can be held in jail. Her husband Clay will remain in the parish jail. Their first arraignment is expected to be in around 2 to 3 weeks. In a horrific scene, Lacey's emaciated body was discovered partially naked, sitting upright and partially submerged in a hole in a couch covered from head to toe in urine, liquid feces, maggots, and insect bites at her parents' otherwise neat single-family home in Slaughter on January the 3rd. Her feet were crossed underneath her on the couch, deep inside a hole that her long-suffering body had worn through both the upholstery and the cushion. Dr. Ewell Beckham III said she had been stuck on the couch for at least 12 years. Additionally, it has been reported that Lacey had fecal matter shoved in her face, chest, and abdomen. Her hair was matted, knotted, and filled with maggots, and she weighed less than 100 pounds. Arrest warrants for the Fletchers were prepared immediately after the grand jury decision. East Feliciana Parish Coroner Dr. Ewell Beckham III told DailyMail.com Monday that the images of the conditions Lacey was found in were so horrific and upsetting that the medics would be on standby for the members of the jury. He added that the photos of the scene left those in the room speechless. "When I was presenting the case and showed the pictures and gave the timeline, the expressions of the grand jury was utter shock," he said. "Like the clock on the wall never moved. There was complete silence. Some jurors were gasping in horror, some were staring in disbelief." Beckham also told the DailyMail.com that the case had been really hard on him personally and described Monday's grand jury proceedings as a long, emotional day. "Seeing those photos again and reliving this traumatic experience again was really hard." Outside the court, District Attorney Quilla said, "I believe justice was served here today. Lacey Fletcher didn't deserve the way she was treated. For this type of crime, second-degree murder is the highest charge that could have been produced today." The Fletchers were arrested on Monday afternoon. Dr. Beckham revealed that Lacey had been on the couch for at least 12 years. Evidence-wise, a minimum of 12 years. Could be before that, at least 12 years, a terribly long period of time. The coroner also revealed the full horrific cause of death. He said the cause of death stemmed from severe medical neglect, which led to chronic malnutrition, acute starvation, immobility, acute ulcer formation, osteomyelitis, which is a bone infection which finally led to sepsis. Dr. Beckham also cleared up a misunderstanding about Lacey's actual condition, originally reported as locked-in syndrome. He said, "I don't know where that term came from or what source it came from. In all my years as a practicing physician, I have never heard of that term. The only diagnosis that I know she did have was first social anxiety, severe autism, and that's it. Those are her only 2 diagnoses. The last time she saw a physician of any type or any kind was when she was 16 years old. That picture of her when she was 16. DA Diaquila agreed Lacey's death was a crime against humanity and added, I hope this indictment brings some spotlights to victims of this type of crime. The coroner has a lot of authority, a lot of power. If people don't want to get treatment or they refuse treatment, go to the coroner's office, go to law enforcement, check on your neighbors, check on your friends. If you are a caregiver, reach out and make sure people are taken care of. This case was so horrific that the coroner and sheriff's office initially investigated this case in January, and the conditions that she was found in, it was just unbelievable. You don't treat anybody of any animals like that. Something had to be done, and we all got together. We all stood on the same platform, and we are all here now, and we have an indictment for second-degree murder. Sheriff Travis added, it was nothing short of horrific and sickening. We all collectively worked together to reach the point we are at now. This is a case that is rare, but today everything was done correctly by every member of this team, and we successfully reached a conviction that we believe is going to be justice for Lacey's situation. 2 Louisiana parents could be charged with murder after their disabled daughter was found melted into the couch. The body of 36-year-old Lacey Fletcher was discovered at her home in a tiny, quiet town of Slaughter back on January 3rd, in what can only be described as abhorrent circumstances. Recounting the nauseated scene, Dr. Ewell Beckham estimated that the woman had sat in the same place for years, to the point she had literally become fused to the furniture. I couldn't eat for a week, and I cried for a week, Dr. Beckham said. When I first walked into the house, it smelled of feces, fecal material. However you want to put that politely, it stunk. And when I got to the body, the individual was basically sitting in a hole filled with liquid stool and urine. The victim, he said, was covered from head to toe in urine and liquid feces with bed sores that went down to the bone and was crawling with insects. She weighed just 96 pounds. Why? How can people do that to somebody? And how can you stay in a house? I mean, not only it would take a sick, twisted person to be able to allow something like that, but it carries it to a whole new level. You would be able to coexist with something like that. I, I don't know about people. Fletcher reportedly suffered from locked-in syndrome, unable to move any muscles besides her eyes. Her parents were supposed to be her caretakers. Beckham claimed that she had been left to use the couch as a latrine, and she had eventually melted through the upholstery of the 1960s-style sofa. It was the worst form of medical neglect I've ever seen. I don't know any other adjectives or adverbs to add to that, Beckham said, claiming that she had been neglected for at least a decade. I've never seen anything like this. That literally turned my stomach as bad as it did. The coroner told WBRZ, it literally got me emotional, and I'm a strong person. Did they not have any guests for 12 years? Did nobody come to the house? Didn't the neighbors smell that? Louisiana gets pretty hot and humid. The parents called 911 on January 3rd when they noticed she had stopped breathing. First responders entered the otherwise idyllic home to find a nightmarish scene. Though her death was officially recorded on January 3rd, Beckham believes she could have died 24 or even 48 hours before that. After an autopsy, Jefferson Parish Forensic Center ruled the death a homicide. Fletcher's parents have not been arrested or charged with any crime, but District Attorney Sam Diaquila has called in the grand jury to consider second-degree murder. Other potential charges include manslaughter, cruelty, to the infirm, negligent homicide, or none at all. The caretakers just let her sit on the couch. She just urinated and used the bathroom on the couch. It was a smell of rot. We don't even treat animals like this. According to The Sun, the parents were interviewed by detectives on January 18th. They claimed that Lacey had suffered severe social anxiety as a teen and was homeschooled. They said she refused to leave the couch and would urinate and defecate in towels or on the floor per the outlet. They said they had not brought her to a doctor in 10 years because she was not ill and that she was of sound mind to make her own type of decisions, it reported. They insisted she cleaned her wounds and they cleaned her wounds and brought her meals. No, I don't believe she was of sound mind. I think she was being held hostage there. This week, their attorney released a brief statement. They don't want to live the pain of losing a child through the media. They have been through a lot of heartache over the years. Anyone who has lost a child knows what it's like. Neighbors spoke of their shock at the horrific revelation. One said he had last seen Lacey outside 5 or 6 years ago. I asked him one day a couple of years ago because I hadn't seen her, Robert Blades said to the father. Yeah, she still stays here, he said. They go to church every weekend and do anything for anybody, a Stud neighbor added. I have no words for this. I mean, how can you just let somebody sit there and basically rot? I mean, not just somebody, your own child, and you're living in the same house with that going on. I mean, you see the pictures of the couch. It's horrific. I don't even know words for this at this point. Anyways, I'll keep track of this case and any new developments that come up, I will bring to you. Y'all have a good night.